The sun was setting over the city skyline as Jasmine Williams stepped out of the yellow school bus, clutching her folder of debate notes against her chest. She took a deep breath and looked up at the Grand Plaza Hotel. The building towered above her, its glass windows reflecting the orange and pink hues of the sunset. This was her first time staying at such a fancy place. "Remember, lobby meeting at 7 p.m. sharp," called out Mr. Rodriguez, her debate coach, as the team gathered their bags from under the bus. Jasmine nodded and smiled at her teacher. She had spent weeks preparing for this stake debate championship. Her topic on environmental justice in urban communities had earned her team's spot here, and she wasn't going to let anyone down. The hotel entrance featured tall revolving doors that spun between two uniformed doormen. Inside, crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings, casting a warm glow over the marble floors. Fancy-dressed people moved about with purpose, some pulling suitcases, others typing on phones. "Wow," whispered Lily, Jasmine's teammate, as they entered the grand lobby. "This place is something else." Jasmine nodded in agreement. Her own neighborhood had nothing like this. She felt a flutter of nerves in her stomach, not from the upcoming debate, but from feeling so out of place in these fancy surroundings. Mr. Rodriguez approached the front desk with the team roster. "I'll get everyone checked in. You all can wait in the lobby seating area." The team found a cluster of velvet couches in the corner of the lobby. They plopped down their backpacks and began chatting excitedly about tomorrow's competition. "I'm going to grab some water," Jasmine told her friends. "Anyone want some?" When no one responded, she shrugged and walked toward a water dispenser she had spotted near the elevator bank. As she filled a paper cup, she overheard two hotel employees talking. "The mayor's office confirmed she'll be here for that business dinner tonight," said a woman in a black blazer with the hotel logo. "Make sure the Jefferson room is perfect." Jasmine smiled to herself. Even the mayor was coming to this hotel. She finished getting her water and started back toward her team. Just then, Mr. Rodriguez waved from the front desk. "Jasmine, can you come here? There's an issue with your registration." Jasmine frowned but headed over. The woman behind the counter was typing rapidly on her computer. "There seems to be a problem with your room assignment," Mr. Rodriguez explained. "They need to sort it out. The rest of the team can go up, but you might need to wait a few minutes." "No problem," Jasmine said, though her stomach tightened a little. "I need to go help get everyone settled," Mr. Rodriguez said apologetically. "Will you be okay waiting here? I'll come back down as soon as everyone's situated." "Of course," Jasmine assured him, trying to look more confident than she felt. "I'll just review my notes." As her teammates headed for the elevators with their room keys, Jasmine found a single armchair in a quiet corner of the lobby. She sat down, placed her small suitcase beside her, and opened her debate folder. 20 minutes passed. The lobby grew quieter as the business crowd thinned out. Jasmine checked her phone. 6:40 p.m. Mr. Rodriguez would be back soon for the team meeting. She returned to her notes, highlighting key points for tomorrow's opening argument. She didn't notice the security manager watching her from across the lobby. Richard Tanner had been with the Grand Plaza for 15 years, and he prided himself on identifying potential problems before they occurred. His eyes narrowed as he observed the young black girl sitting alone in the luxury hotel's lobby. Jasmine was deep in concentration, rehearsing her arguments in her head, completely unaware that in the next few minutes, her presence in this fancy hotel would be questioned in a way that would change the course of the evening, and many lives, forever. Richard Tanner straightened his tie and adjusted his security badge before crossing the lobby. His polished shoes clicked against the marble floor as he approached Jasmine. He'd worked at the Grand Plaza for 15 years, and took pride in maintaining its prestigious atmosphere. In his mind, the young girl sitting alone didn't fit the hotel's image. Jasmine was too focused on her debate notes to notice his approach. She had just underlined a key statistic when a shadow fell across her paper. "Excuse me," came a stern voice above her. Jasmine looked up to see a middle-aged man in a dark suit standing over her with arms crossed. His security badge glinted under the chandelier light. "Can I help you?" she asked politely, closing her folder. "What are you doing here?" Tanner asked, his voice sharp enough to make a couple nearby look over. Jasmine sat up straighter. "I'm waiting for my debate coach. We're staying here for the state championships tomorrow." Tanner's eyes narrowed. Do you have proof you're a guest at this hotel? Jasmine's heart began to race. My coach has my room key. He's upstairs getting everyone settled, but he'll be back soon for our team meeting at 7. Team meeting? Tanner repeated with obvious disbelief. And where's your identification? Jasmine reached for her school ID in her backpack, but Tanner interrupted before she could retrieve it. This is a 5-star establishment, not a public library. We've had issues with locals using our lobby as a hangout spot. The couple at the nearby table was openly staring now. Jasmine felt her cheeks grow warm. I'm not a hangout. I'm a guest, she explained, trying to keep her voice steady. My name is Jasmine Williams from Central High. Our debate team checked in 20 minutes ago. If you're a guest, where's your room key? Tanner demanded louder now. Like I said, my coach has it. There was a mix-up at the front desk with my registration. Tanner looked toward the front desk and gestured to a clerk, who shook her head slightly. They don't seem to know anything about a mix-up, he said, turning back to Jasmine. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Jasmine's stomach dropped. Please just call Mr. Rodriguez, my debate coach, or check the guest list. My whole team is registered. Tanner took out his radio. I need backup to the main lobby, he said into it. Got a situation here. More people were watching now. An older woman whispered to her husband. A businessman pretended to check his phone while glancing over repeatedly. This is crazy, Jasmine said, her voice rising despite her efforts to stay calm. I'm supposed to compete tomorrow. Please just check the registration. If you're actually registered, you can sort it out outside and come back with proper proof. Tanner insisted. Right now, I need you to gather your things. 2 more security guards appeared, flanking Tanner. One was a younger man with a buzz cut, the other an older woman with gray streaked hair pulled into a tight bun. What's the problem, Rich? The woman asked. Just someone who needs to leave, Tanner replied, not taking his eyes off Jasmine. I don't need to leave, Jasmine said, standing up now, clutching her debate folder. Her voice trembled slightly. I'm a guest here with the Central High debate team. Please just call my coach or check your system. Ma'am, please don't make this difficult, the younger guard said, stepping forward and reaching for her backpack. Don't touch my stuff. Jasmine stepped back, bumping into the chair. Her folder fell, papers scattering across the floor. As she bent to gather her work, Tanner nodded to the guards. Please escort this young woman out. Tears pricked at Jasmine's eyes as she scrambled to collect her debate research. A few onlookers shifted uncomfortably, but no one stepped forward to help. You can't do this, Jasmine said, standing up with her crumpled papers. This isn't right. The female guard took her gently but firmly by the elbow. Let's go, miss. From across the lobby, the elevator doors opened. Jasmine caught a glimpse of her teammates emerging, but they were too far away to notice what was happening. My team, Jasmine called out, pointing toward the elevators. They're right there. Please just ask them. But Tanner and the guards were already moving her toward the revolving doors, the eyes of the entire lobby following their every step. The security guards firmly guided Jasmine toward the exit, one on each side. Her debate papers were clutched against her chest, some still crumpled from being hurriedly picked up off the floor. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment as hotel guests stared. Some quickly looked away when she met their eyes, while others whispered behind cupped hands. Please, Jasmine tried again, her voice catching. My debate competition is tomorrow morning. I can't leave. My coach will be looking for me. You can wait outside until someone comes to verify you're a guest, the female guard said, not unkindly but firmly. Hotel policy. As they neared the grand entrance, Jasmine spotted Lily across the lobby. Her teammate was looking around, probably searching for her for their 7 p.m. meeting. Jasmine tried to wave, but the male guard gently pushed her arm down. Lily, she called out, her voice echoing in the high-ceilinged space. Lily, over here. Lily turned, confusion crossing her face as she spotted Jasmine being escorted out by security. She nudged another teammate, pointing. Soon, several members of the debate team were staring in confusion. Those are my teammates, Jasmine insisted, relief washing over her. See? I told you I'm here for the debate competition. Richard Tanner glanced over at the group of teenagers but shook his head. They need to come to the front desk with proper identification if they want to help you. We can't just take your word for it." By now, Laylee and two other teammates were hurrying across the lobby. Jasmine could see the shock on their faces. "What's going on?" Lily called out. "Why are you taking her?" "Are you with this young lady?" the female guard asked, pausing momentarily. "Yes, she's on our debate team," one boy answered. "We're all staying here." Tanner stepped between them. "Do you have your room keys? Can you prove your guests?" The teammates fumbled in their pockets, producing their key cards. Jasmine felt a surge of hope. "See, I told you," she said to Tanner. "I just don't have my key because there was a problem with my registration. Mr. Rodriguez is handling it." Tanner examined one of the key cards, his brow furrowed. "These kids might be guests, but that doesn't prove you are. Where's your coach now?" "He went to help other students get settled. He should be down any minute," Lily explained, stepping closer to Jasmine. "This is ridiculous. She's our best debater." Jasmine reached for her phone. "I'll call him right now." "Stop," Tanner said sharply. "No phone calls. For all we know, you could be calling someone outside to create a disturbance." Jasmine's hand froze midway to her pocket. She couldn't believe what was happening. "That doesn't even make sense. Why would I do that?" More hotel guests had gathered, watching the scene unfold. A woman in a business suit approached the front desk, speaking quietly to the clerk while glancing their way. The male guard checked his watch. "Mr. Tanner, maybe we should verify with the front desk again." But Tanner seemed determined. "I've worked here 15 years. I know when someone doesn't belong. The front desk already confirmed she's not registered." But there was a mix-up. Jasmine insisted, her voice rising. "That's why I was waiting." "Hey, what's happening?" A new voice called from across the lobby. It was Mr. Rodriguez, hurrying toward them with a concerned expression. Jasmine felt a wave of relief. "That's my coach," she said, pointing. But before Mr. Rodriguez could reach them, Tanner nodded to the guards. "Let's continue. We can sort this out outside." The guards resumed moving Jasmine toward the revolving doors. She could hear her teammates protesting behind her, their voices growing louder. "This isn't right," Lily shouted. "You can't just throw her out." As Jasmine was pushed toward the revolving door, she caught her reflection in the glass, eyes wide with disbelief, face flushed with humiliation. Outside, the evening had fully darkened, and the city lights twinkled indifferently. Just as they reached the threshold, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb, its headlights momentarily blinding them. The driver jumped out and hurried to open the rear passenger door. Jasmine, half inside the revolving door, paused as a woman in a tailored suit emerged from the car. Even in her distress, Jasmine recognized the face from local news and campaign posters around the city. It was Mayor Eleanor Brooks. The sleek black town car gleamed under the hotel's entrance lights. Mayor Eleanor Brooks stepped out with the confident posture of someone used to commanding attention. She wore a deep blue pantsuit with a small city pin on her lapel, her natural hair styled in a short, professional cut. At 52, she carried herself with the authority earned from decades of public service, first as a civil rights attorney, and now as the city's first black female mayor. As the mayor thanked her driver, she glanced toward the commotion at the hotel entrance. Her eyebrows rose slightly as she took in the scene, a young black girl being escorted out by security guards, while a group of teenagers and an adult man protested loudly behind them. Inside the revolving door, Jasmine froze. She recognized the mayor immediately from school assemblies and community events. Mayor Brooks had even visited their debate club last year to talk about her path from debate champion to lawyer to public office. The security guards hesitated too, suddenly aware of the important arrival. "Evening, Mayor Brooks," the female guard said with a forced smile, trying to maintain a professional appearance despite the obvious tension. The mayor nodded politely, but her eyes were focused on Jasmine, taking in her crumpled debate papers and the hands gripping her arms. "What's happening here?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying the unmistakable tone of someone used to being answered. Richard Tanner stepped forward quickly, adjusting his tie. "Just a routine security matter, Mayor Brooks. Nothing to worry about. Please, allow me to escort you to your dinner meeting." The mayor didn't move. "I asked what's happening with this young woman." Jasmine swallowed hard, gathering her courage. That kicking me out, Mayor Brooks. I'm here with Central High's debate team for the state championship tomorrow, but they don't believe I'm a guest. Tanner cut in. Ma'am, we have no record of her registration, and she has no room key or identification tow. I have my school ID, Jasmine interrupted, reaching into her pocket with hands that trembled slightly. By now, Mr. Rodriguez had pushed through the small crowd that had gathered. I'm Victor Rodriguez, the debate coach from Central High. There was a mix-up with Jasmine's registration that I was sorting out. I left her in the lobby while I got the rest of the team settled. When I came back down for our meeting, I found this. Mayor Brooks looked from the coach to Jasmine, her expression thoughtful. Jasmine Williams, isn't it? Jasmine's eyes widened in surprise. Yes, ma'am. You presented that compelling argument on urban green spaces at last year's City Youth Forum, the mayor said with a small smile. You cited my own college thesis back to me. Very impressive research. A flash of pride momentarily overcame Jasmine's distress. You remembered. Of course, I make it a point to remember promising young minds. The mayor turned to Tanner, her smile fading. Mr. Tanner. Richard Tanner, head of security. Mr. Tanner, it appears there's been a misunderstanding. I can personally vouch that Ms. Williams is exactly who she says she is. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Tanner's face flushed red, and the guards loosened their grip on Jasmine's arms. Mayor Brooks, we were simply following protocol for unconfirmed guests, Tanner stammered. The front desk had no record. Perhaps the front desk should check again, Mayor Brooks suggested, her tone making it clear this wasn't actually a suggestion. The growing crowd of onlookers had fallen silent, many filming with their phones. Jasmine's teammates had moved closer, standing protectively near her. Lily whispered, "Is that the actual mayor?" One of the other debaters replied, "She totally saved Jasmine." Mr. Rodriguez stepped forward. "Thank you, Mayor Brooks. I apologize for the confusion. I should have made sure Jasmine had her key before I went upstairs." No apology needed, Mr. Rodriguez, the mayor replied. The hotel should be apologizing to you and especially to Ms. Williams. Tanner's posture had completely changed, his earlier confidence replaced with nervous deference. Of course. A terrible misunderstanding. Please, let me personally escort you all back inside. As they turned toward the lobby, Mayor Brooks placed a gentle hand on Jasmine's shoulder. Are you all right? Jasmine nodded, though her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The mayor looked at her thoughtfully. You know, I was thrown out of a debate competition when I was your age. Someone didn't think I belonged there either. She smiled slightly. Their mistake. The Grand Plaza's lobby felt different as Mayor Brooks walked in with Jasmine beside her. The marble floors and crystal chandeliers were the same, but now every eye was on them. Hotel guests whispered behind hands, staff members straightened their postures, and Jasmine's teammates watched with wide-eyed amazement. Richard Tanner hurried ahead, his earlier confidence replaced by nervous energy. I'll get the manager right away, he said, nearly tripping over his words. Please, make yourselves comfortable. That would be appropriate, Mayor Brooks replied evenly. She turned to Jasmine. Let's sit down, shall we? They moved to a seating area where Jasmine's debate team quickly gathered around. Mr. Rodriguez shook his head, still processing what had happened. Jasmine, I'm so sorry, he said, genuine regret in his voice. I should never have left you alone in the lobby. It's not your fault, Mr. Rodriguez, Jasmine said. Though her voice was steady, her hands still trembled slightly as she organized her crumpled debate notes. Lily sat beside her friend, putting an arm around her shoulders. Aren't you okay? That was so messed up. Before Jasmine could answer, a woman in a tailored gray suit rushed toward them, a plastic smile fixed on her face. Her name tag read, Patricia Wells, General Manager. Mayor Brooks, what an unexpected honor, she gushed. I understand there's been some confusion with one of our guests. The mayor's expression remained calm but firm. Ms. Wells, this young woman, Jasmine Williams, was being forcibly removed from your hotel despite being a registered guest here for tomorrow's state debate championship. Patricia's smile faltered. There appears to have been a terrible misunderstanding. I've checked our system personally, and Ms. Williams is indeed registered as part of the Central High School group. It wasn't a misunderstanding, one of Jasmine's teammates piped up. They didn't believe her even when we told them she was with us. Mr. Rodriguez stepped forward. The front desk told me there was a glitch with Jasmine's registration that they were fixing. I explained this to her and asked her to wait in the lobby. When I returned, security was escorting her out. Patricia's eyes darted nervously between the mayor and the growing number of onlookers. I assure you, this is not how we train our staff to handle situations. And yet, Mayor Brooks said it happened anyway. She gestured toward the small crowd of hotel guests still watching them. In front of all these witnesses, Jasmine noticed someone recording with their phone. Others were typing on their devices, probably sharing what they'd seen on social media. Her humiliation, once private, now felt even more public. Patricia leaned closer, lowering her voice. Mayor Brooks, perhaps we could discuss this matter privately in my office. I don't believe privacy is what's needed right now, the mayor replied. Transparency is. A hotel employee approached Patricia, whispering something in her ear. The manager's face paled. What is it? Mayor Brooks asked. Patricia straightened her jacket. It seems several guests have already posted about the incident online. It's gaining attention. For the first time, a hint of satisfaction crossed the mayor's face. Good. Accountability matters, Ms. Wells. Jasmine looked down at her phone and saw messages pouring in from friends who had already seen posts about what happened. It was all moving so fast, becoming bigger than just her. What would you like us to do? Patricia asked, her professional demeanor cracking under pressure. Mayor Brooks turned to Jasmine. That depends. What do you want to happen here, Jasmine? All eyes turned to her. Jasmine felt the weight of the moment. Just an hour ago, she'd been worrying about her debate arguments. Now she was being asked what justice looked like to her. She took a deep breath. I want 3 things. First, I want my room key so I can prepare for tomorrow's competition without any more problems. Second, I want Mr. Tanner and the hotel to apologize, not just to me, but publicly since this happened publicly. And third, she paused, considering her words carefully. Yes, the mayor encouraged. I want to know what steps the hotel will take to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else in the future. Because I'm not the first person this has happened to, am I? I'm just the first one who happened to know the mayor. A small, proud smile appeared on Mayor Brooks' face. Spoken like a true debater, she said softly. Clear, concise demands with a view toward lasting change. Patricia nodded stiffly. We can certainly accommodate these requests. Patricia Wells led Mayor Brooks, Jasmine, Mr. Rodriguez, and 2 hotel board members into the executive conference room. The polished oak table reflected the room's soft lighting. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city's twinkling skyline. It was a room reserved for important business meetings and VIP guests, certainly not where Jasmine had expected to find herself an hour ago. Please, have a seat, Patricia gestured, her forced smile barely concealing her panic. Hotel crises were meant to be handled quietly, not with the mayor witnessing everything, especially not with social media already buzzing about the incident. Richard Tanner stood uncomfortably by the door, his earlier authority deflated. He kept adjusting his tie and glancing nervously at the mayor. As everyone settled around the table, Patricia cleared her throat. First, on behalf of the Grand Plaza Hotel, I want to offer our sincerest apologies to Ms. Williams for this unfortunate incident. Unfortunate incident? Mayor Brooks repeated, her eyebrow raised. Let's be clear about what happened. A student guest was profiled, disbelieved, and physically escorted out despite having legitimate reasons to be here. One of the board members, an older man with silver hair, leaned forward. Mayor Brooks, I assure you that the Grand Plaza has strict policies against discrimination of any kind. Policies on paper mean nothing if they're not followed in practice, the mayor replied. She turned to Jasmine. Would you like to share your experience with these gentlemen? Jasmine nodded, sitting up straighter. The initial shock had worn off, replaced by a determination she usually reserved for debate competitions. She described waiting in the lobby, being approached by security, showing her school ID, and having her teammates verify her story, all to no avail. No one believed me, she concluded. And the worst part is, I kept thinking about what I did wrong, what I could have done differently. But I didn't do anything wrong. I was just sitting there. The room fell silent when she finished speaking. Mr. Rodriguez placed a supportive hand on her shoulder. "Mr. Tanner," Patricia said stiffly, "do you have anything to say?" Tanner stepped forward, his face flushed. "I was following protocol for unidentified persons in the lobby. There was no record." There was no record because of a computer glitch that I had already explained to the front desk, Mr. Rodriguez interrupted. A glitch that would have taken 30 seconds to verify if anyone had bothered to check. The fact remains, Mayor Brooks added, that when multiple students with room keys verified Ms. Williams' story, they were ignored. You made assumptions based on how she looked, not on the facts presented to you. The board members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Outside the conference room, hotel staff gathered, whispering and peeking through the glass panels. Word had spread quickly among employees. Patricia's phone buzzed continuously on the table. She glanced down at the screen and her face paled. "The story has been picked up by local news outlets," she said quietly to the board members. The silver-haired board member rubbed his forehead. "We need to get ahead of this." "Exactly," Mayor Brooks agreed. "And that starts with addressing Jasmine's requests, a proper apology, her room key, and concrete steps to prevent this from happening again." Patricia nodded quickly. "Of course. We've already prepared Ms. Williams' room key. As for the apology, I want Mr. Tanner to apologize," Jasmine said firmly, "not just the hotel. He's the one who didn't believe me." All eyes turned to Tanner, who shifted uncomfortably. I apologize for the misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding," Jasmine replied, her voice steady despite the slight tremor in her hands. "You didn't believe me because of what I look like." Tanner opened his mouth, then closed it again. Mayor Brooks watched him carefully, her eyes narrowed. "You're right," he finally said, his voice quieter now. "I made assumptions I shouldn't have made. I've worked security for 15 years, and I'm supposed to spot people who don't belong. But I got it wrong today, and I'm sorry." The apology hung in the air for a moment. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. "And the third request?" Mayor Brooks prompted, turning to Patricia. "What steps will the Grand Plaza take to ensure this doesn't happen again?" The silver-haired board member leaned forward. "We'll implement additional training for all staff immediately." "Training that already exists on paper?" Mayor Brooks asked pointedly. "No," Patricia intervened. "New training with real accountability. And we'd like to invite Ms. Williams and her debate team to help us develop it. We could use their perspective." For the first time since the ordeal began, a small smile crossed Jasmine's face. What had started as humiliation was turning into something unexpected, a chance to make real change. 2 weeks after the incident at the Grand Plaza Hotel, Jasmine stood at the podium in the school auditorium. The debate championship had ended with Central High taking first place, thanks in large part to Jasmine's powerful performance. But today wasn't about trophies. Today was about something bigger. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, local news reporters, and community members. Jasmine's parents sat in the front row, pride shining in their eyes. Her mother dabbed away tears while her father recorded everything on his phone. Next to them sat Mayor Brooks, who had become an unexpected mentor since that night. Jasmine looked down at her notes, then set them aside. She knew what she wanted to say. "When I was thrown out of the Grand Plaza Hotel 2 weeks ago, I felt small," she began, her voice clear and steady. "I felt invisible. Like what I said didn't matter because of how I looked. It's a feeling too many of us know too well." The audience was silent, hanging on her every word. But something unexpected happened that night. Mayor Brooks showed up at just the right moment, and suddenly people listened. "Suddenly I was visible again." She paused, looking directly at the audience. "But what about all the kids who don't happen to know the mayor? What about all the people who get pushed out of spaces every day with no one to speak up for them?" In the third row, Jasmine spotted Richard Tanner, the security manager from the hotel. After their meeting, he had asked to attend to today's community forum. He sat quietly, listening with a thoughtful expression. "Since that night, 3 important things have happened," Jasmine continued. First, the Grand Plaza Hotel has started a new training program for all staff, focusing on unconscious bias and fair treatment. I've been working with them to develop it, along with my debate teammates. She gestured to Lily and the others, who smiled encouragingly from the side of the stage. Second, Mayor Brooks has launched a citywide youth leadership initiative that will bring students from all backgrounds together to work on community problems. She turned to nod respectfully at the mayor, and I'm honored to be one of the first participants. Mayor Brooks nodded back, a subtle smile on her face. But the third thing is the most important, Jasmine said, her voice growing stronger. People are talking, really talking, about experiences like mine that happen every day. The video of me being escorted out has been viewed over 1 million times online. My inbox is full of messages from kids sharing similar stories. She took a deep breath. I never wanted to be known as that girl who got thrown out of a hotel. But if sharing my story helps someone else be heard, then I'm okay with it. Because this isn't really about me, it's about all of us and the kind of community we want to build together. As Jasmine spoke, she noticed Mr. Rodriguez wiping his eyes in the back row. Her history teacher, Mrs. Chen, was nodding along. Even Principal Watkins, usually so reserved, seemed moved. So what now? Jasmine asked, looking around the room. We've got hotel training programs and youth initiatives. That's great. But real change happens in small moments, in everyday choices. It happens when we believe someone the first time they tell us who they are. It happens when we speak up when we see something wrong. She spotted Richard Tanner again in the audience. To her surprise, he was nodding. 2 weeks ago, I was just focused on winning a debate competition, Jasmine said with a small laugh. Now I'm standing here talking about changing the world. Life is funny that way. But here's what I've learned. Sometimes the worst moments can lead to the best opportunities if we're brave enough to turn pain into purpose. The auditorium erupted in applause. As Jasmine stepped away from the podium, Mayor Brooks was the first to stand, followed quickly by the entire audience. Even the reporters put down their notepads to clap. Later, as people gathered in small groups to talk, Richard Tanner approached Jasmine cautiously. That was quite a speech, he said. I wanted you to know I handed in my resignation at the hotel. Jasmine's eyes widened. You did? Why? I'm going back to school, he said. Social work. Figured after 15 years of keeping people out, maybe I should learn how to welcome them in properly. For the first time since their paths had crossed, Jasmine smiled at him. Not because everything was fixed or forgotten, but because change, real change, had begun.